Hi, my name is Cecil Baumann, and I'm your host and the founder of the company Ganz in Bewegung. I'm a movement and Alexander technique specialist. My business serves holistic thinking people who want to improve their mind-body connection. We are coming to you live from Zurich, Switzerland, where it's winter at the moment and we have snow. Our interview session today is with Lucy Ascham, also known as Sheffield's Body and Soul Energy Expert and best-selling co-author. We are so excited to have her here, but before I bring her up, I want to share what I mean by mind-body connection. The Ganz in Bewegung system we developed include 7 defining components of being human. For non-German speakers, the meaning of Ganz in Bewegung is the whole of you in motion, which includes your movement, your body, your surrounding, your experience, your emotion, your thinking, and it's all connected with your breathing, and all is interconnected with each other. Our guest Lucy Ascham is a healer, teacher, and facilitator, and lover of being embodied as she walks in the woods in Sheffield, swims in cold water, or sits quietly with a cup of tea. Lucy has been working with individuals and group workshops, taking people from pain towards freedom for over 2 decades. She has been a teacher of Alexander Technique since 2003, a family and systemic constellations facilitator since 2019, and an ongoing student of Sarah Payton's Resonant language. Lucy loves being able to help facilitate a deeper and kinder look at what people carry in their body, nervous system, and soul, supporting people to see and accept a little more of the truth they carry helps them integrate their experiences for more choice and ease in the world. She has light touch while being able to hold a safe space for deep work. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Lucy Ascham, please contact her directly via the web page lucyascham.com. Let's welcome Lucy Ascham as I bring her up here. Welcome, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Cecile.
We haven't met before, but your posts on social media catch my attention and curiosity. I have so many questions. Let's start with your story. Can you share more about the specific challenges you faced as a trumpet player with stage fright and how you discovered the Alexander technique as a solution?
I will indeed. Thank you. So 30 years ago, I was a music student at Dartington in Devon and playing the trumpet. You know, I loved it. And in my practice room, I felt I was great with 1 or 2 other people in a small ensemble, fine and fun. As soon as it was just me on stage, you know, for a recital or an exam or something, I just fell to pieces. My breathing would do one thing, my voice, my fingers would do a second thing. My neck got so stiff I couldn't turn to look at the pianist. It was just a mess. And at the end of one of the recitals, the teacher came up to me afterwards and said, you know, I know you're better than that, but that was just so uncomfortable for you and for us. And they gave me 2 options. They said, you know, perhaps try some beta blockers, which is kind of heavy duty heart medication to kind of suppress everything. And I'm like, I don't even really take aspirin, so what else is there? And they suggested the Alexander technique. I'd never heard of it. However, I was fortunate enough that there was an Alexander training school just down the road, and their 3rd-year students were looking for people to work with and practice on. So I just turned up every lunchtime for about a year and had, you know, a little bit of hands-on work. And it was very mysterious. Nobody told me what they were doing or what I should be doing, but my body just kept on taking me back again and again. And I had these lovely experiences of, you know, the contrast from going in feeling a bit heavy, a bit out of sorts, a bit down, a bit whatever. And I'd come out and, you know, somehow the world seemed lighter and brighter and the trees were more colourful with more movement. And I had to rearrange my car windows, windscreen mirrors and the seat. It was like, oh, there's something going on here. And I don't think I ever took my trumpet into a session, but my trumpet playing got easier. I became more comfortable in front of an audience. I became more comfortable in my own height. I'm 5'10" and a bit. I became more comfortable in my own skin. So yeah, all in all, it was quite a remarkable transformation, I think, over that year.
And other people could see it, of course, I'm sure. They
Yeah.
noticed the change.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And, whereas I used to be very timid and scared of singing in choir and had left the school choir in tears because I didn't want anyone to hear me. Actually, I then got into the choir at college, and people would kind of put their ear next to my mouth to try and hear what I was singing because apparently it was correct and it was nice. And so there were all sorts of nice surprises, for me as I was kind of learning and growing.
Wonderful.
And then it was
Yeah.
10 years of working in orchestral administration with
Yeah.
the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra in Birmingham and the Manchester BBC Philharmonic. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful, but very, very stressful. I need to do something else. So that's when I retrained in the Alexander technique at the
Ah,
one.
that was the point where you decided to do the training course, a 3-year training course, and not only take lessons.
Yeah,
Was
exactly.
there a special reason for this? So was the pressure or the stress just building up too much, or the
Yes.
need?
So throughout those 10 years from leaving college, I had regular lessons with different people in whichever city I was in, and I loved it. And kind of at the back of my mind, it was always one day I will, do this training.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it was after my dad died, and then I came into a little bit of money, and it suddenly was like, oh, this is actually a possibility, not just a dream. And work had got super stressful, and somehow I was really burnt out and fed up. And I just thought, no, I really need a change here, something that's going to feed me, look after my health, but also something that I really know that I'm making a difference to people. I really wanted to sort of improve their health, not just, fill in the gaps when they were off work and find a replacement, which had been my job.
Mhm.
So
So you think it was worth the time and the money you invested to
absolutely.
do it again? Yeah.
Some of my happiest times as well was at the Cumbria Alexander Training School in Kendal. It was a real, lovely, lovely point of my life. I had some freedom. I was there Monday to Thursday, and I could go walking in the hills, which I love to do. I had time to go and, just sit and explore and chat with friends. I'd been so busy for the previous 10 years doing concert duties on evenings and weekends and stuff. So it was a real lightness and freedom and, being around like-minded people. And of course, over those 3 years, there's a lot of changes to your body. And so things were getting easier and, yeah, just sort of like a nice oiling of all the joints and processes going on, and just felt like there was more time to make decisions and choices.
I also saw that you work online with the Alexander technique. Can you tell us a bit more about how this came about?
Yeah, so even before COVID, I'd started working with a few people online. And so it was very interesting during COVID because, of course, I wasn't allowed to touch people. They weren't allowed to come to the house and where I work. Um, so it was like how to adapt things so that I could still be helpful. And yes, there are 3 years of training in our hands, in terms of what to do and mostly what not to do when touching somebody. So it's not about manipulation or cricking and cracking or making things happen. It's a very different quality of touch. But I found ways to explore and inquire with people so that they could have more understanding of themselves, more knowledge about their own habits, what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, and get more choice about that. So I met a man who actually lives in Manchester, where I worked and lived for many years. But I met him online during COVID, and he was in the state where he was walking around barefoot because he couldn't reach to put his socks on. His back was so sore. He spent all day at the computer doing some very technical, very precise coding work. And he couldn't go on his bicycle or play easily with his child. So we worked together for about 6 months online, weekly sessions. And during that time, I noticed he started wearing socks. And I was like, hello, did that happen? And then he'd tell me about the games that he'd played with his child and how when he got out of bed, he was no longer, in pain and having to crawl around and, bent double before he could eventually straighten up again. And within that time, he also got back on his bicycle as well. So, it's really something, when to be able to help somebody to change their life in that way, and also to have the skills and tools so he doesn't need to come and see me anymore, because he's got enough capacity and enough learning and understanding what to do for himself and how to look after himself, but also how to keep on improving. So yeah, I'm thrilled with it, and of course it means I can help more people wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's all about awareness. Yes, if one gets aware about how and why and all the things around who influences us, you can manage life much easier and better. It's
Exactly,
really
yeah.
great.
And I really liked your sort of image of the system and all the different aspects to it. And I also think that knowing a little bit about our anatomy, of course, is how things put together. Where are the actual joints? What sequence, what order things can work in. So it doesn't have to be great detail, but just actually knowing where things are so that you can move them in the way that they are naturally available to be moved. So that excites me when I can show people, where their hip joints really are and what happens along their arms and shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the different changes. You change just a little and there is a massive effect. I'm always thrilled about the effect it has just to change an idea of yourself or of the body functioning, and there is a massive increase in life quality. That's wonderful. Great, you did it. You were one of the first probably from our method to get online. I just saw Mio Morales first, and but you were probably earlier than him already
I
in the
think
business of online.
about 10 years, and he was very generous during lockdown to share some of the ways that he was doing it and some of the simple setups with Zoom and everything. So I benefited from his experience for sure.
Yeah, that's great. It's always good to have connection.
Mhm.
But now, how did you come across family constellations work, and what drew you to explore this modality?
So it was when I was in Kendal, so doing the Alexander training. We were basically in a sort of community centre, and at the weekend, somebody was doing a family and systemic constellations workshop. I was just intrigued. I didn't know what that meant, and went along, and it was quite remarkable. I hadn't got a clue of what was going on, but somebody interviewed somebody else, and then they asked for volunteers, if you like, from the group in the circle to stand in and represent somebody. And I was asked to be a man with a roving eye. So somebody who's kind of on the lookout for, you know, women and just really kind of constantly. So I've no idea what that's like. I'm not like that. And obviously, I'm not a man, but there was something about standing in there that I just tuned into. And I could just see that my gaze was constantly kind of looking, searching, wondering, and it was such a huge experience for me to kind of that saying, if you don't know somebody until you've walked a mile in their moccasins.
Yeah,
It was some experience of, oh wow, this is what it's like, and it really wasn't to do with the person. I definitely wasn't acting, it wasn't made up. I just was following my body's sensations and cues, and I was absolutely searching the whole time. So it gave me some experience of tapping into some information in a very different way. Very, very powerful. So over the course of a weekend, I stood in for grandfathers, I stood in for Canada, I stood in for anger, all sorts of different elements. And each one kind of gave me a gift of knowing something about myself, but also about the wider context of, how we as humans connect with each other and the things that affect us. Um, and of course, well, I say of course, but I come from a big family. I'm the youngest of five children. And, there were things that happened in my childhood, of course, that I'm not so happy with, difficulties, things of, feeling life's not fair. Do I really belong here? All sorts of kind of questions. And so I was intrigued enough that I then took myself to a workshop as what's known as the issue holder or the seeker. So the person who sort of brings the focus for the work, but everybody who's there can benefit for sure.
Mhm.
And yeah, had some real insights, had some real moments of kind of going, oh right, it's like this. And what I thought I knew and what was then being shown to me were kind of the same but different. You know, there was a different perspective on it. So over the years, you know, I went to a few workshops, and each time was really blown away by, you know, what it was I saw and what I experienced for myself. And then I was also studying nonviolent communication, which I came across again during my time of my Alexander training. And I'd been, you know, studying with all sorts of people over the world, and came to a woman called Sarah Payton, who is based in Portland, Oregon, on the west coast of America. So she's been my counselor, if you like, for many years, looking at some of the things that happened in my childhood. So trauma with a small t, you know, and yet it had a big impact on me, you know, still ongoingly. I could see that I was, you know, some of those patterns that were set up then were then the kind of the way that I was shaped as a human being, um, without knowing it. You know, it's like I would no way have gone into looking for a partner and thinking, oh, great, I'll choose someone just like my dad. Love the man to bits, but, you know, quite complicated and not straightforward. And I was like, I ended up with somebody a lot like my dad. I'm like, how on earth did that happen? And then through the lens of the constellations, it's like, oh, of course, right. There's this unfinished business here. And somehow little Lucy had taken it on out of blind love, not consciously, you know, just such a small little baby kind of going, oh, how can I help? You know, and just lending my nervous system to help the family system to be healthier and more functional, if you like. So yeah, it's been a remarkable journey, and at some point Sarah Payton came from America. She was working in a nearby town to me, nearby city, Leicester. So we met for the first time in 7 years of doing work via Zoom. And somebody assumed that I was also a family constellations facilitator. And I kind of looked at myself and I went, oh, is this what we look like? Right. Started inquiring about what that training would be like. And within, I don't know, 3 weeks, I was on a training course. So yeah, it just spoke to me. I never, I thought that I would be, and I probably am, an Alexander Technique teacher through and through until the day I die. I wasn't looking for anything else, and yet somehow this just kind of grabbed me and said, you know, Lucy, we need you. Come on, come and do this work. So yeah, it's fabulous. I love doing it, and I do some work individually with people online, um, which is always a thrill. You know, someone phones up from America or India or France or wherever and says, "Oh, Lucy, I found you online. You know, can we look at this aspect of my life?" And it's sometimes things that they know are kind of difficult in one side of their family or the other, the mother side or their father's side, and they come quite specifically knowing that it's impacting on them in terms of their life force, and they're feeling blocked or kind of burdened by something. And there are ways that we can work to help sort of untangle things and get them a little bit clearer about their own life journey.
What I found very fascinating about family constellation is that you can do it without your family having to be inside this setting. You know, you can do it with people you don't even know. You
Yeah.
can go and just tune in and see what's coming up for you, and if you want to take it on or not, and what is has to be or can be released and understood and healed. Also, it's a lot of healing because it's so unconscious. Everything is so unconscious that
Yes.
it's not our fault. You know, it's no one's fault. They do it also unconsciously to us. So it's something natural, and yeah, that was life is giving us.
Mm-hmm.
But you have always the chance to heal in any stage you are. You can start today, you know, and that's wonderful that you do it online. For a lot of people, they have not so much time, and also to travel is for some hard, and especially if you have kids. and you know how it is. You have to be available for them for a long time, and you always take yourself back, and you give your way of growing up to your children. And if this is not the way you want to raise your children, it's good to start right away and see what can be
And
released.
yeah, and that's one of my biggest motivators, really, because I've got a son, and my desire is to be as clear as I can be in terms of my backlog of work. I want to kind of process the things that have happened to me so that I'm not unconsciously passing them forward to him. So, there will be things about, I sometimes speak to him in ways where I think, oh, that's actually my mother's voice. That's not what Lucy does anymore. That's not the way I want to do it. But, it's force of habit. And I've grown up with my mother's voice, for years, of course, Lucy, do this, Lucy, do that, not like that, do it like this. And
Mhm.
that's natural, but it's like that's not necessarily how I really want to parent. Times have changed. I'm not a school teacher like she was, and she would, of course, use some of that way of speaking with a classroom. And she would use that in the home, of course, with 5 children.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I know that there are different ways of speaking and behaving. And so if I catch myself, I'll say, oh, I'll say to my son, oh, I noticed that I was speaking in a way that actually didn't sound just like Lucy. That was a bit of my mum. So can I try again? And I'll have another go. But it's very useful to kind of see some of the perspectives and not make my mum wrong out of any of that, but just kind of
Mhm.
she was a product of her upbringing and the things that she lived through and the things her parents survived through as well. So my job is to kind of dilute some of that, I think, and as I say, do a lot of my own processing, my own healing work, so that it will be a lighter sort of blessing, I hope, for my son rather than a burden for him.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I mean, I'm like my mom, and I notice it, and then I tell them, yeah, that's not how I wanted to react, but it's just coming up too fast. I can't stop it before because when it gets emotional, um, yeah, the brain stops working rationally. And so that's also normal. And if you can talk to your children like this, they learn also to be friendly with themselves, and can always say sorry. I didn't meant it to be that harsh or with these words. So
Yeah,
you can somehow always come back, and next time probably it works. It's life.
absolutely. Yeah, the family constellation work. There's also a lot of sort of humility and respect that kind of comes about by having a more sort of experiential understanding of what it might have been like for mum in this instance, and what her mum went through. And you can sort of see that we've all been shaped by the wind, if you like. you know
Hmm.
these trees on
That's
the
a good picture. I like it.
like we've all been shaped by what's gone on before us. And it's like we can't necessarily change that, but understanding that we're bent like this because of the wind, the weather, and the soil erosion and what happened when. And
Hmm.
we can then have a lot of love and respect and take that bit rather than, but you didn't say this or you should have, and oh, poor me. It
Yeah,
really makes things a lot clearer and a lot easier to sort of live with the soil and the shape that I'm in, if that makes sense.
yeah, the acceptance.
Mm.
That's great. Can you tell us more about the upcoming workshop this year?
Yes, so I'm excited. I've got 3 at the moment.
Oh, great.
So they are all in person at the moment, but I've got 2 in Sheffield on Tuesday evenings, and it's at a private residence, but fully wheelchair accessible. And yes, there are still places for those for sure. And also, I'm really glad I've been invited back again. I think it's the 4th time to do a weekend workshop at a lovely Buddhist retreat centre. It's actually a bit of a building site still, but it's in the making and it's still, fully functional. It's a beautiful part of the world, south of Bristol in Somerset, and it's Alfoxton Park House. and that's going to be in mid March. So bring your thermals and your blankets and your slippers. It's not the warmest place, but it's a very, very nourishing place. They've got a wonderful community, lovely food, and just the land is absolutely fabulous. And all of that supports, the deep work.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say one more thing as well, because just before you asked me about the workshops, you said something about acceptance being really important. And
Yeah.
I think with the constellations work, one thing that's really been a surprise to me is not to just sort of accept things. It's like, somebody gives you an old jumper and you kind of go, okay, that can stay, here it is. And you put it at the back of your wardrobe. What we do in the constellations is we find out whether we're ready, whether it's possible for us to agree to something. And that has a whole different kind of flavor. So last year, I had a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. And I remember being in the doctor's office. And initially, I was like, can't be me. My concept of myself is that I'm a really healthy person. And I didn't know enough about diabetes to know which. And I say to him, oh, but if I eat more greens and beans, can I just not go to the hospital? And he's like, actually, no, you need insulin. This is serious. and and I remember sitting there and thinking, oh, if I accept this, then it feels like okay, this is how it is. Yes, but it felt like a bit of a weight. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to agree to this. And that agreement somehow made me feel more in partnership with my body and more accepting of the reality. And then kind of going, okay, how can I make my health the best that it can be within this? So the agreement is a really huge piece when we accept our reality, because otherwise that's what clangs in our head and in our cells to kind of go, it shouldn't be like this and it's not fair and why me? And, all of those things come up. That's very natural. But when you actually agree to something, your fate, the reality, some of the fight goes out. So I've still got the condition. Like, yes, I need insulin, but actually I'm not kind of railing against the gods or, trying to bargain with something else. It's like, this is how it is. And how do I make the best out of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's a wonderful turnaround. I like it. What words and thinking can cause stress or relief. And that's so individual. For me, acceptance is like you described it with the agreement. It's somehow the same for me. It's not that I accept it and I let myself to be heavy, but I accept my new reality somehow. So it's so interesting, how different people or each one has their own way of dealing and thinking and needs clarity about that
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
make it change, because only oneself can change this.
And the language is really key as well, because we do all receive it and understand it and perceive it in our own individual ways as well. And it's my love of kind of accuracy and precision and noticing this kind of individual response to it that also led me into my love of this resonant healing language that I'm studying now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Can you tell us more about the resonant healing language?
yeah, of course. So again, with Sarah Payton, who'd been doing nonviolent communication and constellations, and now it's actually her amazing study of neuroscience that's led this new modality, which is called resonant healing language. So it's about resonating, like you might get two musical instruments, and she plays the cello. So she often uses this example that you have two cellos in the room, you play the strings on one, and the other one starts to vibrate in resonance. And she's talking about our brains and our bodies doing something similar, so that one person's full of oh, what happened to them, and strong emotions. The other one can actually tune in and kind of gets a flavor of that, and then if you offer that back to them and say, oh, as you're speaking, I can notice that there's a tightness in my chest, or I feel flushed in my face, or my jaw is gripping. It's a way of helping somebody kind of go, oh, I've been understood. And then they can actually kind of check, well, is it like that or is it a little bit different? And they might go, yeah, it's like that in my chest, but it's more like I'm tingling in my scalp. And then it's like, oh, tingling in your scalp. So there's a way of kind of really meeting somebody where they are through their embodied felt sense, but having a little sharing of that. So as you'll know with the Alexander technique, there's a way of kind of being with yourself and being there for and with somebody else and having a sense of what's going on for them without losing yourself. So I'm not, going totally into their experience, but very much, how I can have that stance, that posture to look after myself and be available to attune to them. So she's got 9 different ingredients, and they all come from neuroscience. So she's read these huge, vast tomes of people who've done the research, and the bits that she's found where there is actual sort of proof, scientific proof, the bits that help our brains to heal, they're the ingredients. So because she's been my therapist, for want of a better word, for the last 15 years, maybe, my brain has now grown and repaired alongside, the work that she's been developing. And I've just started a year-long program in order to do the sort of official training. And she's given me a blessing already to actually start doing the work and having clients. So if anybody's interested, or curious to know how this might help them, I am available. Yeah.
Oh, I found this so interesting because a lot of people, they can't transform their feelings into words. And if you are trained, how you can probably help the other using the language. And actually, it's like a translation. Yes, you translate their feelings or help them translate, so they get a vocabulary to, yeah, to say what they feel, what they notice. Because I notice it in my practice. A lot of people, they say, yeah, it feels good. Okay. What is good for you? It's not a direction you can use specifically. It's okay, but it's not so it's not so deep.
Mm.
It's much easier to store the experience with very clear and defined words or pictures or emotions, and
Yeah.
so that's a really precious gift if you learn this. So I'm curious to hear more about this. But I think our time is almost
Uh-huh.
up. Can this be? Ah,
Yeah. There is so much more to say, but
yeah.
looking at the brain and how the left side is much more the instrumental, organizing, practical, getting things done side, and the right side, and that's the world that I'm working more and more with, in terms of actually our body sensations and metaphors and helping us understand the emotional tone through the felt sense in our bodies. And that's where, you know, I meet people, if you like, where they're not broken. They've had all sorts of experiences, but in some way there is, an essence that is absolutely exquisitely them. And it's like kind of honing into that and helping them be with all the layers and all the things that might feel impossible or in the way. And it's a great sort of gift, really, or a privilege to actually accompany people. So I'm not promising, I can't fix anybody. I don't think anybody's broken, but I can be with them and I can have that curiosity and I can offer, is it like this? Is it like that? So that they can check with themselves and have a better sense of, feeling met. And these are the ingredients that actually help our brains to heal. So it's very exciting work.
So, in your experience, how does the holistic approach of combining Alexander technique, family constellation, and resonant healing language contribute to a client's overall health or healing journey?
Mm. I think they all together, give me different tools, to use. So I sometimes talk of myself like a plumber. So, it's like what gets in the way? Here's this big water system in the house, radiators, tap. And it's like there's something that's blocking the system or that's not correct or not working well. And so I've got, different tools so I can approach if they want, if they kind of go, oh, it's my shoulder that's the most problem. I might start with Alexander work, and actually helping them look at the quality of their thinking and moving. And then if they actually mention, well, something about my grandfather, XYZ, I might kind of go, oh, would it be okay to shift into inquiring in this way? And all the time, if you like, I'm also trying to meet them where they are, with the resonant healing language. So quite often people, will come and they'll say, I want an Alexander technique session, or I want, family constellation. And absolutely, that's what I would do. But I noticed during COVID times, of course, I was dealing with everybody through the rectangle of Zoom. And I was thinking, why am I only using one of these tools? But actually, I think this other thing would be really much more appropriate and more helpful. So it kind of helped me to shift a little bit sometimes during sessions. But what it means is that whatever somebody's carrying, whatever they're dealing with, I've got more tools available to help them get unblocked and to help things get flowing a little better.
Yeah, and I think it's so logical because when I work with clients, they mainly come because of pain. But when you start working with the parts of the body that are not integrated well, not fully flowing, connected, and it's mostly about emotional stress
Absolutely.
or the thinking, that they don't know how to use their body in a way that it's biomechanically designed. So it's really um, like a following up the process and actually more, even more holistical way of helping people. So it makes perfectly sense for me because also the people around you influence you daily. And if you react always in the same pattern, it's not probably not always the best for you and for the other. So it's fantastic. I really like your approach and how this came about, so naturally. And actually, everything started almost at the same time and just developed together.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
selfishly, it all came about because I needed to look at, something had got to a point where it was showing up in my body, sore knees and bad breathing and confidence issues. And I needed to, find something. And these are the things that kind of really worked for me and that I feel really passionate about sort of passing on and making available to more people. So,
Mhm.
it's like I know them from the inside out because I've needed them and they've been very, very useful. And, that they take time, they take commitment. It's not a quick fix. It's something I do working with people. It's not something I do to them, as you know. But they're all kind of similar in terms of looking at the overall system of, yes, our body, and then our body within the environment, within the context of our family and our culture and our history and our country and all of those big things as well. And then
Mhm.
looking at the brain system and our nervous system and how that all relates. So yeah, I love the way that they're all kind of different aspects of the same thing about us. The work that I do on myself, it's not selfish as such, it is for myself, but it's also, as I said earlier, for my son. It's like what's going to be beneficial for him going forward. And if we're in a better place and we're on, more solid ground, and then that's going to have ripple effects and actually be a better resource, if you like, less of a burden on the rest of my family as well.
Yeah, and I think it's great to have more tools. That's why you're so a valuable person. I'm so glad you could make it to this interview today. But our time is up, and before closing, I want to ask you what are the top three things you want our audience to take with them?
I think our body is always telling us something. Our body is always giving us information that we can't necessarily put into words. And if that information is all delicious and lovely, then great, carry on doing what you're doing. But for many of us, there are aches and pains and a lot of suffering. And so, just to know really that there is some help and support available. Um, and, for different people, it will look in different ways. But, there is help. So please don't just suffer on your own. The second thing is that I think really for our healing, we do need other people, because as humans, we're brought up in societies, in tribes, in groups, in systems, often, our family, if we're brought up with them, but it could be step parents or adoptive parents or whatever that system looks like. And so, as knowing that we are a result of that upbringing as well can sometimes take some of the sting away from thinking it's our fault or their fault. Like you started off with, it's not about blame. There isn't the blame, but if your brain kind of goes, yes, it is, they really are, then maybe there is a way of kind of looking at that truth for you that really can actually support you to live more comfortably in yourself. And I think the third thing is to know that, there are tried and tested ways. The Alexander technique, there's a lot of research based on, how and why that works in all sorts of different ways. The same with this resonant healing language, it's based on science. So, it's not fanciful, it's not magical. It is really sort of, these are the things that work, these are the tools that work. So yeah, just to know that there is help available, really, and to please reach out in whatever way to whoever you feel called to work with, and just start somewhere, because we need other people in order to heal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So, Lucy, thank you so much for generously sharing your time, insights, and passion with us today. Your journey from a trumpet player grappling with stage fright to becoming a holistic practitioner of Alexander Technique, family constellation, and resonant healing language is truly inspiring. We appreciate your dedication to helping others navigate through family issues and find healing in a holistic manner. Your commitment to continuously learning and integrating various modalities reflects a deep understanding of the complexity of personal growth and well-being. On behalf of all our audience, thank you for the valuable work you do and for making a positive impact on the lives of those you work with. We look forward to following your journey and the continued success of your practice. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Cecile. It's been a wonderful thing to be a guest here with you and your group as well. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. I trust that this conversation with Lucy Ascham has provided you with valuable insights into the profound impact of holistic approaches. Understanding ourselves and our family connections is crucial for managing emotions and conflicts more effectively. Lucy's experience, gained through years of dedicated practice and training, is not only transformative but also accessible to individuals worldwide thanks to her online sessions. If you resonate with the need for healing, personal growth, or a better understanding of your family dynamics, I encourage you to reach out to Lucy. Her ability to work internationally ensures that support is available wherever you are in the world. A recording of this interview will be available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ganz in Bewegung. Follow us for more content to come. Let us know how you found this event. Until next time, take care